So Torn 2024. This is a crime thriller by Freddie MacDonald, a young US Swiss filmmaker. And this is a crime, this is, well, it's a sort of gangster film, and it stars Eve Connolly as Barbara Duggan. And she's on her own, um, in a shop that seems to be failing. Her mother used to run it, um, but she's died. Her mother has died. And what Eve does is she starts off her day by pulling threads rather than logging into threads in the morning. She pulls threads and they play, it triggers audio messages. So this is her speciality. She does audio messages within um, sort of like embroidered um, artwork. I guess it is artwork that she does. And that's what she's been selling, but it seems to be losing its appeal given that the shop is on its last legs. Um, She is an accomplished seamstress, that's for sure. Um, she seems to have threads all over her shop, and she uses them to remind her the sort of affirmations, and she probably is a bit down in the dumps, perhaps, um, the shop is like her only connection, her only meaning in life, the thing that reminds her of her mother, and so she's unwilling to move on. Um, and she, yeah, she does, she's kind of does things like um, sew buttons on. Like she has one job in when she checks the calendar, and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's for a wedding, and she's late. So she bundles herself into a car. And this is where the film is a bit twee because it feels like when the car's going through the Swiss scenery, it seems a bit like a toy car. I mean, there's that sort of quirky element that's a bit like not quite Michael Haneke films, but it just feels a bit unreal, surreal, perhaps. It's all right. It adds a fun element to the film in a sense. Um, and she, she goes out into the countryside from her small town, gets admonished by the woman who's getting married, and she's already late. She needs to go to the wedding, and she needs a button sewn on her wedding dress. And um, Barbara loses the button falls off, and um, because this woman is shouting at her, I think her name's Mrs. Engel. Anyway, she's just shouting at Barbara, and in a fit of a peak of annoyance, she pushes the button so it falls into the air conditioning grill to be lost for good because she can't get it out. And she says, "Oops, I need to go back to. I have got a spare button, but it's back at the shop." And of course, Mrs. Engel is even more angry now. She's furious. Um, and Barbara heads off back in her car. And on the return journey to her town where her shop is, she runs into a road traffic accident is like bikes, a car, everything mashed up, and it turns out it seems to be gangsters because there's guns, it's quite clear there's a briefcase which presumably has lots of money in it, and Barbara is strapped for cash. She's definitely pretty broke, and so this is a real temptation. Uh, and you see choices coming out in her head. Again, it's actually a message from her mum about, I mean, she's not pulled a cord on this occasion, but her mother's saying it's the choices that you make in life that matter for everything. And so um, we see her taking one choice, which is being as she is such an accomplished seamstress, she rigs up this pulley system with all these threads. Uh, and there's these two gangsters, these two men lining the road, bleeding, and Barbara um, gets this thread and wires everything up and then connects it to a couple of reels of thread in her car and drives off. And she knows that what will happen as she drives away is that the guns will get pulled back along the street into the hands of the two gangsters and they will shoot each other. And then she can reverse and collect the briefcase and the money. And it's like the perfect crime because it's like they've shot them each other. So that's one of the options. This is the perfect crime. There's a couple of other options as well. One is call the police, and one is to drive away and not do anything, or just ignore these two gangsters and let them bleed to death. I mean, none of these are particularly well. The calling the police option's probably the moral one as far as many people consider. Although I think at this point it appears that she's actually picked up the briefcase because the police chief for that town is very disappointed in her because she finds the the loot is in Barbara's possession, and so she gets taken in. So there's all these sort of strange things that happen. Um, the oh, it's just like what when you run through the scenarios, it's a bit like, oh, what is? There's been several films recently where I've thought, oh, there was one last year, Detour. No, it was 2 years ago. Detour, 2016, and that involves someone figuring out the options before doing the crime, but you actually see things playing out. I think there's been several others, and again, it's a bit like a parallel universe thing, but every option is played out in front of you. And even actually, I May Destroy You, there's an element of that film or that documentary, not documentary, television series where the options are weighed up. The protagonist in each of these cases goes through the choices that they have to decide which one works out most expediently for them. I mean, it's not exactly always a moral choice, it's what is best for them. Oh gosh. So, I suppose that makes it entertaining. Um, a lot of, I think back in, say, the 60s, maybe even to the 70s, um, crime was never meant to pay. I remember talking to a friend about The Italian Job, and without giving a spoiler about what happens at the end, just that my friend turned to me at the end because I was thinking, "All right, why is it like that?" Right at the end, as the credits about to roll, and she said, "Crime cannot pay." I mean, that's how it was in film narratives at that point. And now crime often does pay. I mean, there's so many films where people got away with things. There's lots of films with very questionable morals. I think one thing that often does come across in films is that honesty does tend to pay off. I've seen in lots and lots of films where the narrative is that if you're not honest, you will get found out. It almost invariably comes out in the story. So someone tells a lie early on, then they're going to have to pay for it later on. When another character, the supporting character, often is extremely disappointed with the protagonist because they've been less than truthful. So, when it comes to ditching people or being um, being immoral, that often doesn't feature. I mean, I've seen plenty of films where it isn't, um, where someone has got away with doing something really terrible. And I don't know, maybe that I don't know if films are what people grow up with think, oh, right, I'm going to be immoral now, or I'm going to be moral because of all the films that they saw in the 60s, maybe 70s, um, where the morality was clear cut. But it does all fit in with the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People that probably back in about the 20s or 30s, there was a shift away from uh, principles centered living as the means to success. When Stephen Covey looked into how people um, ought to um, conduct their lives, how best that they live their lives. Um, s- um, it seems to have changed a lot of self help in the last 70 years, 80 years, maybe even more. Getting on for 100 years now, actually, if you think it happened in the 20s. And Stephen Covey was reviewing literature, self help literature for um, the whole of the time that the USA had been in existence. And he'd found that it was in the last 50 years, up until the 70s, where superficiality had started to creep in. So I think maybe that's what has happened a bit in films. I don't know. That's just my impression as well from having talked to people and seen lots of films like that. Now, uh, the the thing is, Barbara is on her uppers. Her shop's closing down. It's going out of business. So she's weighing up the options. Things seem to go wrong in some of the options, let's say, not giving away too much. Might be all of the options, who knows? I won't say. But at least some of the options are not exactly successful. So um, I think that that is like one of the main uh, lessons of the film is like, well, if you do this, this might happen. If you do that, something else might happen. Maybe there's no way out. I don't know. Um, there's a- there's there are some messages in the films, and it's delivered with a sense of quirkiness. I mean, there's certain points where like one that does appear in the trailer where Barbara and a couple of the gangsters are handcuffed in the police station, and they're trying to escape. And there's not honor between thieves, even because I mean, uh, they well, at least one of them behaves um unfairly towards the others. So there's things like that happen. Now, because Barbara is an accomplished seamstress, I mean, one of the main gangsters. There's like a main gangster, and then there's two. Um, the two that are involved in the collision. And the main gangster calls Barbara a not so mobile seamstress. I mean, she's the mobile seamstress of the town. I mean, I guess she's the only one because the town is small. Everyone seems to do quite. You don't see that many professions, but the assumption is that people in their profession um, double up, like the police officers, also the notary does weddings, things like that. So, and that happens in small towns. It happens in islands and things like that. It happens. You can't find enough people, so you get people doing more than one profession. But I was also thinking about the word seamstress. I was thinking, is it um, is it a gender neutral term? Because is it one of those few gender neutral terms that is the default for that defaults to the female? Because I don't think there's seamster, but I think some men used to call themselves tailors. But there's this, oh gosh, what was it? Roberta Stowley, um, who says that whilst a seamstress was traditionally a woman um, involved in the same profession, nowadays both men and women can be seamstresses, and that is great. And I don't think there's many others where the default is the female. I mean, there might be a few others, but um, they aren't that much. I mean, in a way, nurse. Uh, People often refer when they talk about a man who works in nursing, they say a male nurse, and it's like if he's a man, it's obvious he's a male nurse. So why is there a need to add male? I mean, just say he's a nurse. So same with um, if a man is a seamstress, and I think there ought to be a lot more language like that, where the default is um, the what was traditionally the female uh, side. I mean, why is it always, you know, why does actor why is actor often considered male? If you talk about an actor without mentioning gender, people will often assume that you mean a man when uh, women are actors too. I mean, they're actresses, so why not actress as the default? Um, you know, I don't know. It's like the sort of thoughts I've got on language and why it is so skewed in one particular way, where the default so often is the masculine. Most words, you know, it's like, oh no, I'm not going to go into too much now because I'm trying to finish this review. So I'll talk about it some other time in a blog, I think, in a vlog. Um, but this film I will score as 8. It's It's okay. It's fairly good. It had enough to keep my interest throughout it. Um, the twee elements, like the car, I suppose it adds something to it and take away from it. The, um, rigging of, threads, I don't know if they would hold all of the things. Because some ways there's some contraptions that you think, with a small thread, it must be really strong to be able to balance that sort of weight. There were things like that that I thought about in the film. But overall, I thought, well, that's, you know, I'm suspending my belief system or lack of belief, my disbelief for this. And it's fine. It was a fun film. So 8 out of 10. Love to know what you think. If you've seen this film, please like if you like this review. Thanks if you subscribe. Please hit the notification button. I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.